the first thing I need to stop thinking is that if I just keep practicing, I'm going to improve. Because the truth is, whether I improve or not with my practice depends on what I'm doing when I practice. Sadly, if I'm not practicing the right way, I may just be reinforcing bad habits in my thinking and my drawing, that in fact it's going to become harder and harder to get out of, to think differently about, when I've been doing them for so long, so intensely. In fact, if I do the wrong things frequently enough, it can even make it more difficult for me to see what I should be doing. If I draw the same things not quite right in the same way over and over again, then I get very used to seeing them in my drawing not quite right. And of course, I'm thinking that that looks good, or else I would be changing it. What's happening is I'm losing my ability to discern the difference between what I'm drawing and what my reference is telling me. Now, of course, we can't improve our drawing without drawing. We should be practicing. But exactly what I'm practicing is very important. I need to make sure that how I'm practicing, that how I move from drawing to drawing is actually leading me in the direction where my overall drawing will improve. And unfortunately, a lot of time, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of drawings in themselves don't necessarily take me to that place. In the end, how I practice is more important. So I have to make sure that I am practicing in the best possible way. How then do I do that? Well, this brings us to our next point, which is I need to stop focusing on producing drawings, on producing artworks, and I need to start focusing on learning to draw. It's an easy trap to fall into because chances are one of the things that encouraged me to start drawing were drawings that I've seen, that have inspired me, that have either made me think I can do that, or have made me think I would like to work at trying to do that. So when I pick up a pencil or pen and I get a sheet of paper, I'm hoping to produce something like that at the end of the session. I'm hoping to produce an artwork. But that's like sitting down at a piano keyboard, picking up a sheet of music and thinking that I can give a performance from it. Before I can give a performance, before I can produce an artwork, there are skills that I have to master. And if I'm focused on an artwork instead of learning skills, it's going to produce a lot of distractions in my mind. It's going to set me up possibly for a lot of very unhelpful expectations. And it's going to direct what I do in a very unhelpful way. The skills we need to learn often depend on exactly what sort of subjects we want to draw, how we want to draw them, what size we're going to draw them, what sort of style we end up falling into as our preferred style. And in fact, before we can learn to draw, if I'm a self-taught artist, then almost certainly I'm going to need to learn how to learn. Because learning is a skill. How to learn anything is a skill. Whether it's tying a shoelace, doing a drawing, driving a car. But of course, when I have a teacher, when I'm in a course, the teacher has learned how to teach, which is the other side of the coin of how to learn. But if I'm self-taught, I don't have anyone teaching me. So I need to be aware that I need to develop my understanding of how learning takes place. So therefore, I can organize my drawing sessions to maximize that learning. This next point may upset a few people, but hear me out. If I want to learn to improve my drawing, I need to stop trying to draw from imagination before I've learnt to draw well. Can you hear the kookaburras behind me? Kookaburras are a wonderful Australian bird of the kingfisher family. The problem with trying to draw from imagination as a self-taught artist learning to draw is that the truth is that almost certainly we won't have a strong enough understanding in our head, we won't have, if you like, accurate enough references in our imagination that we can look at and copy from. Because to draw from imagination means we have to be able to imagine it, and we cannot imagine accurately if we haven't observed accurately in great detail, probably from a range of viewpoints, and we haven't actually worked at consolidating what we're seeing in our mind so that we have a very strong and accurate reference to go to when we draw. To draw well from imagination requires so much effort than drawing from a reference does. And yet, time and time again, I can't help but see that self-taught artists have often underestimated the need for careful observation when we have a reference, let alone to try and conjure from our imagination something that is not in front of us in order to create something on paper. We set ourselves up to fail at drawing well if we try and draw from our imagination before we've learnt to draw from references. And it doesn't matter if I want to be able to draw from my imagination in the future. It doesn't matter if I want to learn to creatively distort reality in my artwork. The starting point to be able to do both of those and other things stylistically well is to learn to draw from reality first. That is always the starting point, then to pursue ways of doing that differently. This next thing we need to stop doing flows from the last one, and again, it may upset some people. But if I'm trying to learn to draw as a self-taught artist, I need to stop trying to consciously draw in someone else's drawing style. Because if I'm trying to do that, that is going to become my focus rather than trying to draw well. Almost certainly an artist whose drawing style I'm wanting to copy, I'm wanting to create in my own drawing ability, will have mastered that style as they learnt to observe carefully and draw carefully, and then having learned how to draw accurately what was before them, then to start to take some creative liberties and push the boundaries of how they represented those things in a way that became both visually recognizable as their work, but more importantly, in a way that people observing their work could enjoy and appreciate and respond in some way to the creativity that's been added to what might have been a more, if you like, literal representation of what was there. But the artist who created that started with reality, learnt to represent reality, and then that gave them a foundation to stylistically push some boundaries and develop a way of drawing identifiable as theirs. If I'm learning to draw myself and I take another artist's style as my starting point, then I'm not teaching myself to observe and to represent reality. I'm actually grabbing whatever I see or think are the stylistic characteristics of that artist's work, and I'm simply trying to copy them. I'm trying to grab a style and put that style on the paper instead of seeing the subject, the reality as my starting point, and letting my creativity flow through that reality. And hey, if you're finding these points helpful, then please hit the like button. Please leave a comment and tell me what's helpful, or if you have any more ideas that I could have put in this video, perhaps ones that you think are particularly relevant for you. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, then why not? But the next point is, if I'm a self-taught artist, one thing I need to stop doing if I want to improve is that I need to stop drawing what I'm drawing if I'm not drawing it well. And that's hard to do for a number of reasons. It may be hard to do because it might be, as in the case I talked about earlier, that I've been drawing something not quite right the same way for so long because I really enjoy the subject that I've actually stopped being able to see the things that are wrong with it. Or it may be that I keep drawing these things because they're the subjects that really enthuse me, really inspire me. If, like me, you like to draw architecture, then it's easy to be drawn to grand architecture that has so many interesting architectural features and embellishments and is so large and grand to look at. That can draw my attention and my enthusiasm a lot more than a small cottage, and yet a small cottage may be the best thing for me to develop my skills, because the truth is, if I can't draw a small cottage well, with a lot less things to have to observe and a lot less challenges of representation on my paper, what chance have I got to do that well with a subject far more complex, demanding far more of me in every one of those areas? This isn't a point. Goodness, I've never heard so many kookaburras here. This isn't a point, but I guess I'm also saying we need to stop being impatient in our drawing process as well. We need to slow down and be at the level we're at, and to embrace that if we're going to push on and improve our drawing. This next point is the point that I'm afraid that many of you are going to think, I don't need to worry about that. And that's precisely the reason why you do. But the next thing we need to stop doing if we're self-taught artists is, once we finish a drawing, we need to stop moving on to the next one without adequately critiquing the one we've done. If I'm a self-taught artist, I am not just a student learning to draw, I'm a teacher teaching myself to draw, which is, again, why we need to make sure we understand as much as we can how we learn to learn. But we also, as the teachers, need to mark our work as well. I need to assess what I've done. I need to work out, have I captured accurately enough the challenges of a subject, the challenges of a medium, the challenges of the scale, to move on to a more challenging subject using those same elements of drawing? Have I mastered them enough? Maybe, in fact, when I critique my own drawing, it tells me that I've gone too far too quickly, and I need to pull back to a place where I can capture all the elements that I need to capture for a good drawing accurately enough. If I'm not getting my perspective angles, if I'm not getting my foreshortening, if I'm not getting my surface textures captured well in a relatively small, simple subject, there is no point moving on to grander architectural subjects. More detail might sometimes hide some of the flaws underlying the basic elements of my drawing, but it certainly will not help me to improve on them. As our Sydney summer afternoon rain starts, let's see if I can finish this. And this point certainly won't apply to everyone, but if I'm someone who perhaps feels or has been told that I have a lot of natural talent, that I'm naturally creative, this may mislead me to the fact that it changes nothing about the work and the effort I need to put into learning to draw, or the fact that drawing is a skill I will need to learn. That it's not some natural ability that I have to just release. That if I put a pen in my hand and have paper in front of me, somehow for me, because of this innate natural ability that I was born with, it will just flow, and if I simply draw enough, it will happen. Nothing happens by chance for anyone. Whatever natural talent or natural creativity might really be, whatever it might really mean for our drawing process, it doesn't change what we need to do and the processes in which we need to do them. If anyone's been told they're talented or creative, good luck to you. But we shouldn't think that it means we have some sort of shortcut to the discerning, to the hard work, to the careful practice and stepping ourselves through a learning process. I'm starting to get wet now, so I'll be really quick. This last point is perhaps the most important, and it's a great summary point of all of them. And that's, I need to stop doing things that aren't leading me in the direction in which I want. And the way we know if what we're doing is leading us in the direction we want is that our drawings, or whatever artwork we're talking about, is improving. If I can see the improvement, if I can see greater accuracy as I compare, as I critique my drawings with my references, particularly if other people can see the improvement as well, if I can see my surface textures working better, if I can see my compositions, the values, the lights and darks, capture ever-increasing visual drama and visual interest in my drawings, then that's great. But if this isn't happening, I need to stop doing what I'm doing, or at least stop doing some of it, because it's not taking me to the place I want to go, and trying harder or doing it longer will not change that. And I have a lot of videos on different things we might want to be changing about our art development and ways we can effect that change and perhaps therefore stimulate some differences in how we draw and the sorts of drawings we produce that might be helpful in kick-starting us into new directions. It is great that in this online age, so many resources, so many possibilities are open to us free of charge. And this allows many more people to pursue art and creativity. But it means many more of us are self-taught, as I primarily have been. And that means we need to work out how to learn, because we don't have a trained teacher to tell us that. Because I was once a trained teacher, although it wasn't anything to do with art, at least I learned how to learn, because I had to learn how to teach. And over again, as I pursued my self-taught learning journey, I came back to principles about learning that I was able to apply in learning to draw that have been tremendously helpful for me. I hope some of them that I've told you now have been helpful for you. And so before I'm washed down into the gully, I think I'll say, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this helpful. But wherever you're at in your drawing journey, whether you're self-taught or whether you have directions, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.